Hey everyone, it's great to have you here. Today, we're diving into a story of love, loss, and unexpected twists. Meet Keith and Sherri Papini, whose journey from childhood sweethearts to a seemingly perfect family takes a dark turn. Keith and Sherri's love story began in middle school, where they shared their first kiss and formed a deep bond. But life pulled them apart, and they lost touch for years. Sherri moved on, marrying someone else, but her marriage ended in divorce after just 2 years. Then, fate intervened. A chance encounter brought Keith and Sherri back into each other's lives, reigniting the sparks of their past romance. They wasted no time in rekindling their connection, and before they knew it, they were head over heels in love once again. Within a year, they tied the knot and started a family in Redding, California. Sherri left her job in telecommunications to focus on raising their 2 children, while Keith continued his work at Best Buy. From the outside, the Papini family seemed to have it all: a loving relationship, adorable children, and stable careers. But as we'll soon discover, appearances can be deceiving. Join me as we uncover the truth behind the facade of the seemingly perfect Papini family and unravel the dark secrets lurking beneath the surface. On November 2nd, 2016, Keith and Sherri Papini's image of the perfect life shattered when Keith arrived home to find his wife missing. It was unusual because Sherri was usually always home when Keith came home from work. Initially, Keith assumed Sherri had gone on a walk, but he became increasingly worried as time passed and she never returned. Keith called the daycare center that his children attended to see if Sherri had picked up their children yet. To his surprise, the school secretary informed him that Sherri had not. Keith's concern for Sherri intensified, and he decided to check the Find My iPhone app on his phone. The app revealed that Sherri's phone was located at the end of the driveway. Without hesitation, Keith ran outside and searched the area. To his dismay, he found Sherri's phone lying on the ground with her headphones nearby. Even more unsettling, there were strands of hair entangled in their headphones. After Keith made the disturbing discovery of Sherri's phone and headphones at the end of the driveway, specifically the Shasta County Sheriff's Office, the Sheriff's Office immediately took Sherri's disappearance seriously and involved the FBI from the start of the ensuing investigation. Keith was determined to bring attention to Sherri's disappearance and pleaded for her safe return. Recognizing the importance of getting Sherri's name and face out to the public, Keith spoke to the media, hoping to generate support and assistance in finding her. The media played a significant role in amplifying the story of Sherri's disappearance. Sherri's beauty, blonde hair, and blue-eyed appearance made her case captivating to the public, and news channels eagerly covered every detail. Her perfect life as a devoted wife and mother only added to the intrigue surrounding her sudden disappearance. Once Sherri's disappearance became public news, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office began receiving a large number of tips. However, despite the sheer volume of information called into the police, none of the tips proved productive in the ongoing search for Sherri. As the investigation into Sherri's disappearance continued, investigators focused on examining Sherri's phone for any potential clues. Upon reviewing the contents, they discovered a heated text message exchange between Sherri and her husband Keith from a few months prior. This exchange raised suspicions among police, leading them to wonder if Keith could have been involved in Sherri's disappearance. Despite the potential suspicion, Keith proved to be cooperative with the police. He volunteered to take a polygraph test, hoping to clear his name from any suspicion. Keith passed the polygraph. In addition to the text message exchange between Keith and Sherri, investigators uncovered several texts from men disguised under female names in Sherri's phone. Upon closer examination, it seemed as though Sherri was planning to leave Keith. On November 10th, 2016, the police tracked down one of the men from Sherri's phone and interviewed him regarding her whereabouts. According to the man, he and Sherri had met 5 years earlier at a restaurant while she was attending a work conference. The man stated he had no idea where Sherri was, but he had some insights into her relationship with her husband, Keith. During the interview, the man revealed that Sherri had a disregard for Keith and feared him. He had allegedly told Sherri that Keith was violent and abusive and would often keep her locked up in their home. After receiving the accusation from the man who knew Sherri that her husband Keith was abusive, the police launched an investigation to determine if there was truth to these accusations. However, after interviewing friends and neighbors of the couple, the police were unable to find any substantial evidence to support the notion that Keith was a violent individual. What the police learned from Keith and Sherri's friends was interesting. All the individuals expressed that Sherri was known for having a tendency to be dramatic and attention-seeking. This info led the police to consider the possibility that the allegations of abuse may have been exaggerated or fabricated. The police received a phone call at 4:32 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning. The caller informed the police that there was a woman on the side of I-5 who appeared to be in need of assistance. Upon receiving this information, the officers swiftly responded and headed to the location. Upon arriving at the scene, the police discovered a woman with chains and zip ties wrapped tightly around her. Due to her disheveled state, it took a few moments for the officers to realize that the woman was Sherri Papini, who had been missing for several days. The officers were relieved to find Sherri alive and quickly began the process of freeing her from restraints. They carefully removed her chains and zip ties, ensuring her safety. Once she was released, the officers transported Sherri to the hospital to receive medical attention. At the hospital, the severity of the situation became apparent. Sherri had multiple bruises covering her body. Her hair was noticeably shorter, and a burn mark could be seen on her arm. Additionally, she had a bad rash on her arm, and her weight had declined to a dangerous level at only 87 pounds. While Sherri was recuperating at Woodland Memorial Hospital, the police attempted to interview her. However, Sherri was too emotional to provide any details. Sherri would only cooperate if her husband Keith were present during the interview. As a result, Keith was allowed to stay in the room while Sherri recounted the incident. According to Sherri, she was out jogging when a dark-colored SUV driven by two women approached her. One of the women, who was older, disembarked from the vehicle and approached Sherri, brandishing a gun, while the younger woman remained in the car. Sherri stated that she was forced into the back of the vehicle against her will. Prior to entering the SUV, Sherri retrieved her phone and headphones from the driveway and intentionally left them behind, along with strands of her hair, to alert Keith that something was wrong. Sherri continued telling the story of her abduction to the police and her husband Keith. She said that during the journey, she kept falling asleep in the back of the SUV, making it hard to keep track of time. Additionally, she mentioned that the two women had wrapped something around her face, preventing her from seeing where she was. According to Sherri, the two women informed her that they had kidnapped her because there was a man who wanted to buy her, and she was to be delivered to that person. They didn't specify who the man was or where he was located. Sherri expressed fear and concern about her situation, as she had no idea where she was being taken or what would happen to her during her captivity. Sherri claimed she was subjected to physical abuse by one of the two women she was being held with. According to Sherri, this woman would hit her frequently, leaving her with various injuries. Sherri also alleged that she was branded on her right shoulder with the word Exodus, which the woman said had been done to appeal to her buyer, who was allegedly a police officer. Sherri further stated that her captors played mariachi music frequently, which she found unsettling and disorienting. The constant playing of this type of music added to the atmosphere of her captivity, making it more isolating and oppressive. Sherri mentioned that she was confined to a single room with a boarded window. Regarding the living conditions, Sherri talked about a closet where she was chained. This closet served as a makeshift bathroom, as there was a bucket inside that she could use to urinate and defecate. About 3 weeks into her captivity, Sherri recalled hearing a gunshot. Following the gunshot, Sherri never saw the older Hispanic woman again. This sudden disappearance raised several questions in Sherri's mind. Was she killed? The younger woman, who had remained silent throughout the ordeal, now took charge. This woman ordered Sherri to get into a car, and they proceeded to drive along I-5. Suddenly, the car came to a stop. Sherri was startled by the sudden and unexpected halt. She looked around, trying to assess the situation. Then, the younger woman told Sherri to exit the vehicle. Confused and uncertain, Sherri cautiously complied. She felt a mixture of fear and excitement as she exited the car. Was this her chance to escape, or was she being led into a more dangerous situation? She was left with no answers, only uncertainty. Subscribe for more chilling stories.